Hello everyone and welcome. So this is my follow-up video after my previous talk where I had one GPU died on me again. It's the same GPU, and yeah, I know the problem. I know what's the problem and I fixed it right away since I didn't have the time to make a video of me repairing the this GPU. So I want to talk about this through again, and so let's get through it. So this video is gonna be the basic diagnostics on how to check if your GPU is still repairable or not, or at least you know what's wrong with the GPU. And this is a Sapphire RX 570 8GB. So first off, we will need to open the case. There are multiple screws at the back, and since that's gonna talk through it, we're gonna need to open this back plate first. Okay, 4 screws removed, and you can remove the back plate. It's gonna stick a bit since it has a thermal pad that connects to this part, which is the VRM, the MOSFETs. Now next up, remove the cables connected to the fans. It's right here behind. Just take your time slowly since you don't want to rip out the cables. I'm sorry. It's tough. Even for me, I'm not used to taking apart, fixing something in front of a video. Okay, there you go. Now let's put this aside. Now what's left is these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws that connects to this heatsink. So let's remove this. Alright, it's removed. Now of course you can clean this up since it's rather dusty. I'll clean this up later. Okay, first thing to always do when you want to check what's wrong with your GPU, of course if it's dead or it won't power on, never connect it to your computer or your mining system. Just don't put any power to it at all. And here we go. First off, we're gonna check the 12 volts. The 12 volts PCIe. It's right down here. It's the first 3 pins. So you're gonna check if there are any short or not. And let's change this to. Okay, that's good. So I don't know what happened, but my camera just died. I took another shot, but it died again on me. It's my GoPro, I don't know, it overheated and then it just turns off. So let's pick up where we start. Okay, back again. After we finish checking this 12 volt rail, we check the 3.3 volt rail from the PCIe lane, which is the 4th pin from this part. And if it doesn't beep, it's good. Then we check the fuse. Some GPUs doesn't have fuses, but most RX Sapphire Polaris cards have GPUs from the RX 470s up to the 590s. I'm not sure about the rest, but in that range, yes, I'm sure there are fuses. And if there's a beep, the fuse is good. Alright, the fuse is good. Now, we check the 12 volt external pin. You can check if it's hard to reach down here. We can just test this top part. There's a small beep because there's power transferred and it charges up the capacitors that's connected to this 12 volt. And now there's no beep. As you can see here, it's not open line, it's good. It keeps on going up, it's charging up the capacitors inside these GPUs. Next, we're gonna check the 5 volt rail. This 5 volt rail, there are two pins that you can test on. This middle part or this big top part. Well, if you're kinda new and you don't have steady hands, well, if you don't have steady hands, don't do this at all, but I like to check this top part since it's easier and safer if I just don't bump into anything, especially when it's powered on during my testing. But nah, this is good. Power's here, no shorts. As you can see, there's this resistor. There are two parts. This both are 12 volts, but this 12 volts comes from this PCIe lane, and this part comes from this 12 volt pin. Now, since this is an Sapphire Pulse, all Sapphire Pulse that I've seen, they all use this top part. But most Sapphire Nitro Plus, especially I saw it from the RX 580s, they use this bottom part from this 12 volt. Why? Because they want to spread out the load since they have more VRMs than the pulses. The pulses use less, you have only 4 VRMs, so they use less power, and so they just transfer the load to the 12 volt instead of using the PCIe lane. You're gonna see up front more if I have more Polaris cards to fix. I have more, but yeah, we'll talk about it later. Okay, next up we're gonna check. Oh yeah, we haven't checked the fuse. You always need to check if the fuses are safe or not. I mean, if they are broken or not. Lone fuses will not have open line, but since this is a good fuse, they beep. Both are good fuse. Next, we're gonna check the resistance from the PEX rail. Make sure this isn't shorted, because if this is shorted, most likely your GPU's dead. There's nothing you can do unless you replace this, but it's not a good idea. It's not worth it, I mean. And as you can see, we have 10 ohms, which is good. And next, we're gonna check the memory controller. It's this part. This part powers the memory controller of this GPU. So we need to make sure it's not shorted too. And as you can see, it's 13. It beeped doesn't mean it's shorted, it's good. 13 is good. Next, we check the memory. If one of these RAM is dying, broken, shorted, whatever it is, the resistance won't be good. Since this is a Samsung have lower resistance than Hynix, and what's that one more? Forgot. Okay. The Samsung, they have 18, but the Hynix, they tend to have 20-ish, 20 plus, 20-ish usually. So this is good. It's not, the 18 doesn't mean it's shorted, because other videos from other people who repair Polaris card have 20s, because this is Samsung are known to have lower resistance. Next, we need to check the V-core. Now, there's something interesting about V-cores. They have 0.3. I know it's very low, but 0.3 doesn't mean it's shorted. 0.3 means it's still good. There's connection and there's still some resistance in this GPU die. Most modern GPU chips have really low resistance. Older GPUs have high resistance, even reach sometimes up to 1 ohms, maybe 2 ohms, but 0.3 in modern GPUs, it's good. But if you see 0, exactly 0, either there's something wrong with the connections or the GPU just died. Sometimes if you haven't power on anything for a long time, or maybe the board is warm, it'll have 0, but this is cold, this is good. So the problem with this was the second time this GPU died on me, and after it died on me, I know the problem is it's this chip. So I just heat it up using the concept of ovening or just reflowing your chip. And I remember what Louis Rossmann said. When people reflow their GPU dies, they didn't usually repair the connection underneath here, but they reflow the connection underneath this GPU die itself. There's a worn out connection down here that causes bad connections or dead GPUs, and I just use that concept. I use my reflow station, heat this center part up, and of course just warm up around here, put it back on, it turns on again, start mining, no problem, no crashes whatsoever. That's the second time I did to repair this, and I guess this age of GPU, this GPU's age isn't gonna be long, but I don't know, we'll see. If I need to reflow it every 2 months, I'm still good with it. I just need to keep this separate from my main mining rigs, so it won't cause any problem with the others. Yeah, so the problem here is it's that simple. Although if you want to start mining, I don't recommend using any Polaris cards, any RX 5 series, any 5 series, 4 series. Just avoid any Polaris cards since they are no longer efficient and they are old, and of course with electronics they are age. Most average, from what I just assume, it's just 5 years. So avoid any Polaris cards. If you want to buy something similar to Polaris cards, buy the RTX 2060s, or at least buy the 1660 Ti's. Avoid the supers since they have little or less coins that you can mine on. 1660 Ti's are quite similar to the RTX 2060s. Similar but doesn't mean the same. And yeah, I recommend just buying those rather than these Polaris RX series cards. I know they are a lot cheaper, sometimes they can even have half the price than the 2060s, but you want to buy GPUs that can last at least 2 years to break even before you start profiting off them. And during those 2 years, with used second-hand old GPUs, they no longer have any warranties. Their electronic lifespan is shorter. Sometimes they're just near dead moments, and that's what I learned when I just started mining and repairing my GPUs. Yeah, I wish I learned that sooner, but I will never know until I tried, right? So this was one of the risks I took, and yeah, I bought this from a dishonest seller who told me it was second used, but turns out it was broken and it was repaired because there was one missing VRM here. Luckily I tried to repair some of my GPUs. I fixed them, I didn't fix them, and I have spare parts, so I just attached this VRM, so it's no longer working with 3 VRMs, which is not good. You need at least 4 to spread out that load, of course spread out that heat. If you use 3 VRMs only under load, yeah, you can imagine 25% of the load is spread out to these 3. There's just too much work for these 3 VRMs, and shorted VRM can cause shorted chip. So just take care of it, maintain your temperature, maintain your GPUs, make sure it's just never overheated, clean it up, and I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. No, it's not much, but it's the least I can tell you what to do. If you want to check your GPU if it's worthy or not to be turned on, powered on or not, I'll try to have more video that actually repaired GPUs, and maybe I can help more of you guys out. Thank you and goodbye.